The giant space station hung in the dark void like a metal city floating among the stars. The Galactic Council chamber was the biggest room anyone had ever seen, with walls that stretched so high they seemed to touch the ceiling of space itself. Thousands of different alien creatures sat in floating chairs that moved around the room without making any sound at all. Ambassador Kralenth stood in the center of the chamber, and his 4 red eyes glowed with anger as he looked at the holographic image of a small blue planet that appeared above his head. The planet looked peaceful and beautiful, with white clouds swirling around green and brown continents, but Kralenth saw it as something dangerous that needed to be destroyed. The Vorthan Empire had ruled this part of the galaxy for over 10,000 years, and Kralenth was their most feared ambassador. His skin was dark purple and covered with sharp spikes that could cut through metal. His voice was deep and scary when he spoke. To the other aliens in the chamber, every alien species in the galaxy had a representative in the council chamber. The crystalline beings looked like living diamonds that sparkled when light hit them. The tentacle people had long arms that could stretch across the room, and their skin changed colors when they got excited. The rock creatures were as tall as buildings and spoke in voices that sounded like thunder. But today they were all quiet as they listened to Kralenth speak about the humans of Earth. The humans had been discovered only 50 years ago, when they first sent radio signals into space. At first, the Council thought they were just another primitive species that would take thousands of years to develop space travel. But the humans surprised everyone by building spaceships much faster than anyone expected. Within 20 years, humans had visited their moon and built space stations around their planet. Within 30 years, they had colonies on Mars and were mining asteroids for resources. Within 40 years, they had built faster than light ships and started exploring other star systems. Now, after only 50 years, the humans had colonies in 12 different star systems, and they were still expanding faster than any species in galactic history. This violated the most important law of the Galactic Council, which said that no species could expand to more than 5 star systems without permission. Kralenth activated the holographic display and showed the Council a map of human space. The blue dots representing human colonies formed a growing bubble that was getting bigger every year. Each dot represented millions of humans living and working in space, building more ships and preparing to spread even further. The other aliens in the chamber made worried noises as they saw how quickly the humans were expanding. The crystalline beings sparkled more brightly, which meant they were scared. The tentacle people changed to dark red colors, and their arms twisted nervously. The rock creatures made deep rumbling sounds that shook the floor. This is why we must act now, Kralenth said as he pointed at the map. The humans are not like other species. They do not ask permission. They do not follow the old ways. They expand wherever they want and take whatever they need. If we let them continue, they will spread across the entire galaxy within a few hundred years. The Council had seen this before many times in galactic history. Young species had tried to expand too quickly, and the Council had been forced to stop them. Usually a simple warning was enough to make them slow down and follow the rules, but sometimes the Council had to use force to destroy species that would not listen. Protocol 7 of the Galactic Peace Treaty was very clear about what happened to species that expanded too quickly. First, they received a warning message telling them to stop expanding or face destruction. If they did not obey within 30 standard days, the Council would send their combined fleets to destroy every colony and ship belonging to that species. The voting process took 3 hours as representatives from each species cast their votes. The result was exactly what Kralenth had expected. Every single species voted in favor of sending the warning message to Earth. Not one alien voice spoke in defense of the humans. The warning message was sent immediately using the fastest communication system in the galaxy. It would reach Earth in less than 6 hours, and the humans would have exactly 30 standard days to respond. The message was simple and direct to the human species of the planet Earth. You have violated Protocol 7 of the Galactic Peace Treaty by expanding to more than 5 star systems without Council permission. You have 30 standard days to cease all expansion activities and withdraw from 7 of your 12 colonies. If you do not comply, your entire species will be destroyed. This is your only warning on Earth. The message was received at the Luna Defense Station, which was humanity's main military base on the moon. Commander Park Dae-ho was working the night shift when the alien transmission came through the quantum communication array. The tall Korean officer had been expecting something like this for months. The human government had been monitoring alien communications for years, and they knew about the Galactic Council's rules about expansion, but the humans had decided to ignore those rules and expand anyway because they believed they had the right to explore and colonize. Space Park Dae-ho read the message 3 times to make sure he understood it correctly. Then he immediately called his superior, Admiral Kim So-ra, who was stationed at the Mars Defense Command. The admiral was a brilliant woman who had spent her entire career preparing for the possibility of alien contact. Admiral Kim So-ra received the call while she was reviewing tactical reports in her office on Mars. She listened carefully as Park Dae-ho read the alien message word by word. When he finished, there was a long silence as she thought about what this meant for humanity. We knew this day would come, Kim So-ra said finally. The aliens think they can threaten us like they have threatened other species for thousands of years, but they do not understand what humans are capable of when we are pushed into a corner. The admiral immediately contacted Earth Command, and within an hour the most important leaders of humanity were gathered in a secure conference room deep underground. The president of Earth listened as military commanders and scientists explained what the alien warning meant and what options humanity had. Some leaders wanted to negotiate with the aliens and try to find a peaceful solution. Others wanted to withdraw from some colonies to avoid war, but Admiral Kim So-ra had a different idea. She believed that humanity should send a message that would completely confuse the aliens. And by time for a special plan she had been developing. Response message was written by Kim So-ra herself and approved by the president. It was sent back to the Galactic Council exactly 12 hours after the warning was received. The message was so simple and polite that it would puzzle the aliens for days. Thank you for the warning. We appreciate the advance notice. Regards, Earth Defense Command. When the Council received humanity's response, they could not believe what they were reading. Never in the 10,000-year history of the Galactic Council had a species thanked them for a death sentence. Other species had begged for mercy or threatened revenge or tried to negotiate, but no species had ever said thank you. Ambassador Kraylanth stared at the message for a long time, trying to understand what it meant. The other council members were equally confused. Some thought the humans had made a mistake in their translation, others believed the humans were trying to be sarcastic, but none of them could figure out why any species would thank the Council for threatening to destroy them. Aliens had no idea that humanity's polite response was actually the beginning of something they had never encountered before. The humans were not afraid of the Council's threat. Instead, they were grateful because the 30-day warning gave them exactly what they needed to put their own plan into action. Deep in space, human ships began moving toward secret positions that had been prepared years earlier. Hidden weapon systems powered up for the first time and started targeting alien positions throughout the galaxy. The Council thought they were dealing with a primitive species that would surrender easily, but they were about to discover that humans had been preparing for this war much longer than anyone realized. The thank you note was not a sign of weakness. It was a declaration that humanity was ready for whatever the aliens wanted to bring. While the aliens in the Galactic Council chamber argued about what the strange human response meant, secret messages began traveling through space to every human colony and ship. The messages were encrypted with codes that would take alien computers thousands of years to break, but human receivers decoded them instantly. Captain Lee Tae-won was commanding a mining vessel called the Rock Crusher near the Proxima Centauri system when his communication officer handed him a small data pad. The message was only 3 words long, but it made the tough Korean captain smile for the first time in months. Operation Gratitude actively. Tae-won had been waiting for this message for over 2 years. His crew thought they were simple asteroid miners who spent their days blasting rocks apart to harvest metals and rare minerals, but the Rock Crusher was actually one of hundreds of disguised warships that had been placed throughout human space. The mining equipment on Lee Tae-won's ship looked exactly like the tools used on real mining vessels, but hidden inside the machinery were weapon systems more powerful than anything the aliens had ever seen. The laser drills that cut through asteroids could also cut through the strongest alien armor. The cargo containers that held processed or were actually missile launchers, loaded with explosive devices. Li Tae-1 called his crew together in the main cargo bay and looked at the 30 men and women who had been working with him for years. They came from all over Earth and the colonies, but they all shared the same determined expression. When he told them what was really happening, "We are not minors," he said as he activated a hidden control panel that revealed the ship's true weapons. "The aliens think they can threaten humanity, and we will just surrender like other species have done for thousands of years. But they are about to learn that humans are different from every other species in the galaxy." On the moon Europa, which orbited around Jupiter, Dr. Choi Min-ho was working late in his research laboratory when he received his own encrypted message. The quiet scientist had been developing theoretical physics experiments for the past 5 years, but now his work was about to become very real. Dr. Choi Min-ho had discovered something that no alien species had ever imagined was possible. He had found a way to make objects disappear from one location and appear instantly in another location thousands of light years away. The aliens called this impossible because it violated the basic laws of physics that govern the universe. But humans had always been good at doing impossible things, and Dr. Choi Min-ho's quantum displacement technology was about to give humanity an advantage that would shock the entire galaxy. His laboratory was connected to similar facilities on dozens of planets and space stations throughout human space. When Dr. Choi Min-ho activated his equipment for the first time, the air in his laboratory began to shimmer and glow with strange colors. A large metal container that had been sitting in the corner of the room suddenly vanished without making any sound. 3 seconds later, he received a message from a research station orbiting Mars confirming that the container had appeared there. The implications were staggering. Human ships and weapons could now appear anywhere in the galaxy without warning. They could strike at alien targets and disappear before the enemy could respond. It was like having invisible soldiers who could walk through walls and attack from any direction. On Earth, General Yang Haijin was coordinating the largest military operation in human history from a command center buried deep beneath the mountains of Korea. Thousands of screens showed the positions of human forces throughout the galaxy, and each one was ready to play their part in Operation Gratitude. General Yang Haijin had been planning this operation for 15 years, ever since humanity first made contact with alien species. She had studied every alien military tactic and strategy used in the past 1,000 years of galactic warfare. The aliens always fought the same way, with massive fleets and overwhelming firepower, but humans were about to introduce them to something completely new. The General's command center was connected to every human colony and ship through a communication network that the aliens did not know existed. Hidden transmitters built into asteroids and space debris created a web of instant communication that covered dozens of star systems every few minutes. General Yang Haijin received reports from human commanders throughout the galaxy confirming that their forces were ready. The aliens expected humanity to have maybe 1,000 ships scattered across their colonies, but the real number was much higher than that. Engineer Bae Soo-jin was working on a space station in the Kepler 442 system. When she received her orders, the station looked like a simple trading post where merchant ships could stop to refuel and resupply, but it was actually a disguised weapons platform that could destroy entire enemy fleets. Bae Soo-jin had spent 3 years modifying the station's systems to hide massive particle beam weapons inside what looked like ordinary cargo containers. The station's power generators were 10 times more powerful than they appeared and could charge the weapons to full strength in just minutes. The Korean engineer activated her hidden control systems and watched as the station's true nature was revealed. Heavy armor plating slid into place around critical systems. Weapon turrets emerged from concealed positions throughout the station's hull. Targeting computers came online and began scanning space for potential threats. Similar transformations were happening on hundreds of other stations throughout human space. Trading posts became weapons platforms. Mining facilities revealed hidden missile silos. Research stations activated experimental weapons that had never been tested in combat. The aliens had been watching human space for months, but they had not seen any of this, because humans had learned to hide their preparations inside ordinary-looking structures. The council's Spy networks reported normal civilian activity, but they missed the military buildup that was happening right under their noses on the planet Nu. Sol in the Alpha Centauri system, Lieutenant Ru Jae-min was overseeing the evacuation of what appeared to be a civilian colony transports filled with families and workers. Departed every hour, making it look like the colonists were fleeing in panic from the alien threat, but the transports were not carrying civilians to safety. They were carrying soldiers and weapons to secret positions throughout the system. The families were actually military personnel in disguise, and the cargo containers held advanced combat equipment instead of personal belongings. Deep beneath the surface of New Sol, massive factories had been producing weapons and ships for years. The colonists had been digging tunnels and building hidden facilities, while pretending to be simple farmers and miners. When the last transport departed, the planet looked completely abandoned. Lieutenant Ru Jae-min activated the hidden systems and watched as the planet's true defenses came online. Weapon emplacements emerged from underground bunkers. Shield generators created protective barriers around critical facilities. Automated defense systems began patrolling the planet's surface. The aliens thought they were attacking defenseless colonies, but they would find heavily fortified worlds defended by weapons they had never seen before. Every human settlement had been built with warfare in mind. Even though they looked peaceful and harmless from space, Captain Ojine was commanding a ship called the Invisible Storm that was unlike anything in the galaxy. Her vessel used advanced stealth technology that made it completely invisible to alien sensors. The ship could fly through the middle of an enemy fleet without being detected. The stealth technology was based on human research into quantum mechanics and electromagnetic fields that alien science had never explored. Human ships could bend light and radio waves around their hulls, making them impossible to see or track. Captain Ojine's ship was one of 50 stealth vessels that had been positioned throughout the galaxy for years. They had been watching alien military movements and mapping enemy positions while remaining completely hidden. The aliens had no idea that human ships were already behind their lines. Darsong Wuseok was monitoring alien communications from a hidden base inside the rings of Saturn. His equipment could intercept and decode messages from across the galaxy, giving humanity advance warning of alien plans and movements. The Korean scientist had been listening to alien military communications for months and had learned that their tactical thinking was completely predictable. They always used the same strategies and formations that had worked for thousands of years against other species. But Darsong Wuseok had also discovered something that would give humanity a crucial advantage. The aliens were arrogant and overconfident because they had never lost a war. They assumed that their overwhelming numbers and advanced technology would easily defeat the primitive humans. The alien fleet was already gathering at the edge of human space, but they were moving exactly as Dr. Song Woo-seok had predicted. Their formation was perfect for the trap that humanity had been preparing. The aliens thought they were hunting defenseless prey, but they were actually walking into the jaws of a predator that had been waiting for them as the 30-day deadline approached. Human forces throughout the galaxy made their final preparations. The aliens believed they were about to destroy another primitive species, but they were about to discover that humanity had been preparing for this war longer than they had been alive. The thank you note had not been a joke or a mistake, it had been a sincere expressio. The massive alien fleet gathered at the edge of the Milky Way galaxy like a dark cloud of metal and death that blocked out the light from distant stars. Admiral Zethmer of the crystalline hierarchies stood on the bridge of his flagship and watched as thousands of ships from dozens of different species formed into perfect battle formations. The crystalline admiral's body was made of living diamond that sparkled with inner light when he moved. His ship was 50 kilometers long and carried enough firepower to destroy entire planets. The bridge was a crystal chamber filled with holographic displays that showed every detail of the approaching battle. Admiral Zethmer had been fighting wars for over 3,000 years, and he had never lost a single battle. He had conquered more species than any other commander in galactic history and destroyed civilizations that had existed for millions of years, but today he was facing something he had never encountered before. The human colonies had been strangely quiet for the past week, with very little communication traffic between their worlds. The aliens expected to see panic and desperate preparations for war, but instead, they detected almost no activity at all. Some of the human colonies appeared to be completely abandoned. This puzzled Admiral Zethmer, because other species usually spent their final days trying to build defenses or negotiate for mercy, but the humans seemed to have simply vanished from many of their worlds, leaving behind empty cities and silent space stations. The alien spy networks had been monitoring human space for months, but their reports made no sense. The humans had approximately 1,000 ships scattered across 12 star systems, which meant they were outnumbered by more than 10,000 to 1. Even if every human ship was a powerful warship, they would still be hopelessly outnumbered. Admiral Zethmer studied the tactical displays that showed the positions of known human forces, the enemy. Ships were small and primitive compared to alien technology. The largest human vessel was barely 2 kilometers long, while the smallest alien dreadnought was 20 kilometers from nose to tail. The mathematics of the coming battle were simple and brutal. The combined alien fleet numbered over 12 million ships of all sizes, from small fighters to massive super dreadnoughts that could crack moons in half. The humans had maybe 10,000 ships at most, and most of those were probably civilian vessels pressed into military service. Every alien species in the galaxy had contributed ships to the fleet that was gathering to destroy humanity. The Vorthan Empire had sent their dreaded battle cruisers with weapons that could melt the surface of planets. The Tentacle Federation had contributed their bioships that were grown rather than built. The Rock People had sent their mountain-sized fortress ships that were nearly indestructible. The alien commanders were so confident of victory that they had already begun arguing about how to divide human territory after the war was over. Some wanted to use the human colonies as mining operations, while others planned to turn them into vacation resorts for alien tourists. Ambassador Kralenth was aboard Admiral Zethmer's flagship to observe the destruction of humanity and report back to the Galactic Council. The Vorthan diplomat expected the war to last no more than a few hours. Once the alien fleet entered human space, the humans will probably surrender as soon as they see our fleet, Kralenth told the Admiral as they watched the final ships arrive at the rally point. No species has ever been foolish enough to fight against odds like these. Admiral Zethmer agreed with the ambassador's assessment based on his thousands of years of military experience. Every species in galactic history had either surrendered when faced with overwhelming force or been destroyed within hours of the first battle. The alien fleet was organized into battle groups that specialized in different types of warfare. The crystalline ships were designed for long-range bombardment and could destroy targets from millions of kilometers away. The Vorthan vessels were built for close combat and could tear through enemy armor with their energy weapons. The bioships from the Tentacle Federation were living creatures that could heal themselves during battle and grow new weapons when needed. The Rock People's fortress ships were slow but nearly impossible to destroy and could absorb tremendous amounts of damage. Supporting the main battle fleet were millions of smaller vessels, including fighters, bombers, and support ships. The alien logistics network could keep the fleet supplied with fuel and ammunition for years if necessary, though no one expected the war to last more than a few days. The alien commanders had studied human military history and were not impressed by what they found. Humans had been fighting wars on their home planet for thousands of years, but they had never faced an enemy with advanced technology or superior numbers. Human weapons were primitive chemical rockets and metal projectiles that could barely penetrate alien armor. Human ships were slow and clumsy compared to alien vessels that could travel faster than light and maneuver like fighters. Despite their massive size, these aliens had fought and destroyed hundreds of species over the millennia, and they had developed tactics and strategies that were proven effective against every type of enemy. They knew exactly how to deploy their forces for maximum impact and minimum casualties. Admiral Zethmer's battle plan was simple and straightforward. The alien fleet would enter human space in 3 massive waves that would overwhelm any defenses the humans might have prepared. The first wave would destroy human military forces, while the second wave would capture important colonies. The third wave would hunt down any surviving human ships and eliminate all traces of human civilization from the galaxy. It was a plan that had worked perfectly against every other species the aliens had encountered. The alien spy networks had reported that human military doctrine was based on primitive concepts like courage and determination rather than advanced technology and superior firepower. The humans seemed to believe that fighting spirit could overcome material disadvantages. This made the alien commanders even more confident because they had seen this type of thinking before. Young species always believed they could defeat superior enemies through willpower and determination, but they were always wrong when faced with the reality of modern warfare. The aliens had weapons that could destroy entire star systems and shields that could withstand the explosion of supernovas. Human weapons were barely advanced enough to damage alien armor, and their shields were so weak that they were practically useless. Admiral Zethmar activated the communication system and addressed the commanders of all 12 million ships in the fleet. Today, we end another chapter in the long history of galactic civilization. The humans will join the thousands of other species that have learned the price of defying the Council. The alien fleet began moving toward human space in perfect formation, with advanced sensors scanning ahead for any signs of human military activity. The journey would take 3 days at maximum speed, giving the aliens time to finalize their battle plans. During the journey, Admiral Zethmar received regular reports from his scouts who had been monitoring the edges of human space. The reports were puzzling because they showed almost no sign of human military preparations. The colonies appeared to be defended by small groups of civilian ships with minimal weapons. Some of the human worlds seemed to be completely abandoned, with no signs of life or activity. The aliens expected to find desperate preparations for war, but instead, they found empty space stations and silent communication networks. This lack of activity made some of the younger alien commanders nervous, but Admiral Zethmar was not concerned. He had seen this before. When species realized they were about to be destroyed, sometimes they simply gave up and waited for the end to come. The alien fleet maintained perfect formation as it approached the outer edges of human space, with sensors and weapons ready for immediate action. The commanders expected to detect human forces at any moment and begin the final battle, but as they crossed into human territory, the aliens found something they had never encountered before in thousands of years of galactic warfare. The space around them appeared to be completely empty, with no signs of human ships or defensive positions anywhere. Admiral Zethmar studied his tactical displays with growing confusion. Where were the human forces that his spies had reported? Where were the defensive positions that should have been protecting the human colonies? The alien fleet continued deeper into human space, while scanning for any signs of enemy activity, but the space around them remained eerily quiet and empty, as if the humans had simply vanished from the galaxy. Some of the alien commanders began to wonder if the humans had fled to another galaxy or hidden themselves in some unknown location, but Admiral Zethmar knew that no species could move their entire civilization without leaving traces. The aliens were about to discover that the humans had not fled or hidden. They had simply been waiting for the perfect moment to reveal themselves and the trap they had been preparing for years. The alien fleet reached the edge of Earth's solar system just as the sun was rising over the human home world. Admiral Zethmar stood on his crystal bridge and watched as millions of ships spread across space in a formation so large that it stretched from one side of the system to the other. The sight was terrifying and beautiful at the same time. Alien vessels of every shape and size filled the darkness between the planets like a moving constellation of death. The smallest ships were the size of skyscrapers, while the largest were bigger than Earth's moon. Admiral Zethmar opened communication channels to broadcast his message to every human receiver in the solar system. He expected to hear pleas for mercy or desperate attempts at negotiation, but instead he heard something that made him pause in confusion. Classical music from Earth was playing on all frequencies. The sounds of violins and pianos filled the communication channels, while the alien fleet prepared to destroy everything humans had ever built. The music was beautiful and peaceful, which seemed completely inappropriate for the moment. The Admiral tried to understand why humans would broadcast music instead of military communications or surrender offers. Perhaps they were trying to show that they accepted their fate with dignity, or maybe they were trying to confuse the alien commanders. Admiral Zethmer activated his personal communication system and sent a message directly to the human military leadership on Earth. "Surrender now, and your deaths will be quick," he announced in a voice that had terrified countless species. "If you resist, we will make your suffering last for days." The response came immediately from Admiral Kim Sora, who was commanding human forces. "From a hidden facility on Earth's moon, thank you for coming. We have prepared a proper welcome for youth." Alien commander was baffled by the human response. Once again, the humans were thanking their enemies instead of showing fear or anger. Admiral Zethmer had been fighting wars for 3,000 years, but he had never encountered anything like this before. He could respond to the human message. Something happened that changed everything. The empty space around his fleet suddenly came alive. With weapons fire that seemed to appear from nowhere, beams of energy struck alien ships from all directions while the humans remained completely invisible. The attacks were not coming from human ships that the aliens could see. Instead, they were coming from weapons hidden inside asteroids and space debris that had been drifting through the system for years. The aliens had scanned the area for threats, but had dismissed these objects as harmless. Captain Li Tae-1's mining vessel was one of the first to reveal its true nature. The rock crusher had been hiding inside a large asteroid field near Jupiter when the alien fleet arrived. The Korean captain waited until the enemy ships were in perfect position before activating his hidden weapons. The laser that Li Tae-1 used to cut through asteroids was actually a military-grade particle beam that could slice through alien armor like paper. The weapon fired a continuous beam of energy that carved a path through an entire squadron of enemy fighters. Li Tae-1's crew operated their disguised weapons with the skill of veteran soldiers who had been training for this moment for years. The cargo containers that held processed or opened to reveal missile launchers that fired guided projectiles at enemy capital ships. Similar attacks were happening throughout the solar system as hundreds of disguised human vessels revealed their true nature. Trading ships became heavily armed cruisers, while transport vessels turned into missile platforms that could destroy targets. Millions of kilometers away, the alien formation began to break apart as commanders tried to respond to attacks that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Their sensors could not locate the source of the weapon's fire because the human ships were using advanced stealth technology. Captain Ojane's stealth ship, Invisible Storm, was one of 50 vessels that had been hiding in plain sight within the alien fleet itself. The Korean captain had been following the enemy formation for hours while remaining completely undetected by their sensors. When the battle began, Captain Ojane's ship suddenly appeared in the middle of the alien fleet and opened fire with weapons that had never been seen before. The stealth technology made her ship flicker in and out of visibility like a ghost. The Invisible Storm's weapons were based on quantum mechanics that alien science had never explored. The ship could fire projectiles that passed through enemy shields without being stopped and exploded inside enemy vessels. Other stealth ships appeared throughout the alien fleet and began attacking from impossible angles. The aliens found themselves fighting an enemy that could appear and disappear at will while striking from any direction. Dr. Choi Min-ho's quantum displacement technology was being used for the first time in actual combat. Human ships could instantly teleport from one location to another without crossing the space in between. This made them nearly impossible to target or destroy. A group of human destroyers suddenly appeared behind the alien flagship and fired a concentrated barrage of missiles before disappearing again. The aliens tried to return fire, but their weapons hit empty space where the human ships had been moments before. The alien commanders had never faced an enemy that could teleport during battle. Their tactical computers could not calculate firing solutions for targets that could vanish and reappear anywhere in the battlefield. Engineer Bae Soo-jin's space station in the Kepler system revealed its true nature as a massive weapons platform that could target multiple enemies simultaneously. The station had been disguised as a simple trading post, but was actually more powerful than most alien battleships. The Korean engineer's weapons fired beams of energy that could reach across the entire solar system and strike targets with perfect accuracy. The station's power generators had been hidden inside what looked like cargo containers but could produce enough energy to power a small city. Similar Weapons platforms were revealing themselves throughout human space as trading posts, became fortress stations, and mining facilities turned into missile bases. The aliens had been watching human space for months but had completely missed the military. Build-up Lieutenant Ru Jae-min's abandoned colony on New Seoul suddenly came back to life as massive weapons emerged from underground bunkers. The planet's surface was covered with hidden, defensive systems that had been built over many years. The lieutenant's garrison had been pretending to evacuate when the alien fleet arrived, but they had actually been moving into prepared positions. The colonists were all military personnel in disguise, and the planet was a fortress designed to withstand orbital bombardment. Aliens tried to destroy the planet's defenses with concentrated fire from their capital ships, but the human weapons were protected by shield generators that could absorb incredible amounts of energy. Dr. Song Woo-seok was monitoring alien communications from his hidden base in Saturn's rings and broadcasting the enemy's tactical plans to human commanders throughout the system. The Korean scientists could decode alien military messages faster than their own computers. The alien fleet was trying to reorganize their formations, but human forces were always one step ahead because they knew exactly what the enemy was planning. The aliens were fighting an enemy that could predict their every move. Admiral Zethmer realized that his fleet was in serious trouble. The humans were not fighting like any species he had encountered before. They were using tactics and technology that seemed impossible according to everything he knew about warfare. The alien commander tried to rally his forces and launch a coordinated counterattack, but human ships kept appearing in unexpected locations and striking at the most vulnerable points in his formation. The battle that was supposed to last only a few hours had already been going on for an entire day, and the aliens were losing ships faster than they could count. The humans were fighting with a level of coordination and planning that seemed impossible for such a young species. Admiral Zethmer sent an emergency message to the Galactic Council reporting that the human military was far more advanced than anyone had realized. The species they had planned to destroy in a few hours was actually winning the battle. The aliens began to understand that the humans had not been expanding randomly across the galaxy. They had been building a military network that was designed specifically to fight and defeat the Galactic Council. Every human colony, every mining station, every trading post had been placed in a strategic location that gave them maximum advantage in the coming war. The humans had been preparing for this battle for decades, while the aliens had been completely unaware. The thank you note had been sincere because the humans were genuinely grateful for the 30-day warning. It had given them time to put the final pieces of their plan into place and prepare for the war they had always known was coming. The battle raged for 3 days and 3 nights as the alien fleet found itself fighting an enemy unlike anything they had encountered in thousands of years of galactic warfare. Admiral Zethmer watched his tactical displays with growing horror. As the numbers of destroyed alien ships climbed higher every hour, the humans were not fighting with the massive fleets and overwhelming firepower that the aliens expected. Instead, they were using hit-and-run tactics that made them nearly impossible to catch or destroy. Human ships would appear without warning, strike devastating blows, and vanish before the aliens could respond. Choi Min-ho's quantum displacement technology had completely changed the nature of space combat. Human vessels could teleport instantly from one side of the battlefield to the other, making it impossible for alien weapons to target them. Effectively, a squadron of human cruisers would appear behind an alien formation and fire all their weapons before disappearing and reappearing on the opposite side of the battlefield. The aliens would turn to face the new threat, only to find that the human ships had vanished again. The alien commanders tried to adapt their tactics to deal with this new type of warfare, but their ships were too large and slow to respond to enemies that could appear anywhere at any time. The massive alien dreadnoughts that had been designed to destroy planets were helpless against opponents they could not catch. Captain Lee Tae-won's Rock Crusher had destroyed over 100 alien ships during the first day of battle. The Korean captain's disguised mining vessel was more effective than entire alien squadrons because it could strike without warning and disappear before taking damage. Lee Tae-won's crew had been training for this moment for years, and they operated their weapons with deadly precision. The mining laser that cut through asteroids could slice alien battleships in half, while the missile launchers hidden in cargo containers could overwhelm enemy defenses. The alien fleet was discovering that every assumption they had made about human military capabilities was completely wrong. The humans did not have 1,000 primitive ships scattered across their colonies. They had tens of thousands of advanced warships hidden throughout the galaxy. Lieutenant Rujamin's colony on New Sol had revealed underground factories that had been producing weapons and ships for decades. The facilities had been disguised as mining operations but were actually military production centers that could build entire fleets. Fresh human ships were emerging from hidden bases on dozens of worlds and joining the battle just as the aliens thought they were gaining the upper hand. The humans had been preparing for this war much longer than anyone had realized. The alien spy networks had been completely fooled by human deception. Every report they had sent back to the Council had been wrong. The humans had made their military preparations look like civilian activities while building the most advanced war machine in galactic history. Engineer Bei Su-jin's weapons platform in the Kepler system had destroyed an entire alien battle group during the second day of fighting. The Korean engineer station could target multiple enemies simultaneously and fire weapons that could reach across star systems. The station was one of hundreds of similar platforms that had been disguised as civilian facilities. Throughout, human space trading posts became fortress stations while research facilities revealed experimental weapons that had never been tested in combat. The aliens were fighting an enemy that seemed to have unlimited resources and could replace their losses faster than they could inflict damage. The human military network was so well organized that destroyed ships were replaced within hours. Captain Oh Jin's stealth ship Invisible Storm had been hunting alien commanders throughout the battle. The Korean captain could approach enemy flagships without being detected and strike at the most important targets in the alien fleet. The stealth technology was so advanced that alien sensors could not detect human ships even when they were firing their weapons. The aliens found themselves fighting ghosts that could appear and disappear at will. Dr. Song Woo-seok's communication intercepts had given human commanders complete knowledge of alien tactical plans. The Korean scientists could decode enemy messages faster than the aliens could send them, which meant that human forces always knew what the enemy was planning. The aliens tried to change their communication codes, but human computers could break any encryption system they used. The humans had been studying alien technology for decades and knew how to defeat every defensive measure. Admiral Zethmer realized that his fleet was facing complete destruction if the battle continued. The aliens had lost over half their ships during the first 3 days, while the humans seemed to have unlimited reinforcements. The alien commander tried to organize a strategic withdrawal, but human forces were positioned to intercept any retreat. The humans had planned for this possibility and had ships waiting at every possible escape route. The battle was turning into a disaster for the Galactic Council. The species they had planned to destroy in a few hours was systematically annihilating the most powerful military force in galactic history. Ambassador Kraylenth watched the destruction of his people's ships with growing panic. The Vorthan Empire had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years, but they were being defeated by a species that had only been in space for 50 years. The humans were not just winning the battle, they were demonstrating military capabilities that seemed impossible. The quantum displacement technology allowed them to move ships instantly across vast distances, while the stealth systems made them invisible to all known sensors. The alien fleet began to break apart as individual captains decided to flee rather than face certain death. The disciplined formations that had conquered hundreds of worlds dissolved into chaos as ships scattered in every direction, but the humans were ready for this as well. Hidden forces appeared throughout the galaxy to intercept fleeing alien vessels. The aliens discovered that they had been surrounded by human forces long before the battle began. The humans had been planning this war for decades and had prepared for every possible scenario. The alien fleet was trapped in a cage of human ships that stretched across multiple star systems. Admiral Zethmer sent a desperate message to the Galactic Council requesting immediate reinforcements, but the response he received was not what he expected. The Council was already preparing to negotiate a surrender. The Alien leadership had been monitoring the battle and realized that continuing the war would result in the complete destruction of their civilization. The humans had revealed military capabilities that made them the most dangerous species in galactic history. The species that had threatened to destroy humanity was now facing extinction themselves. The humans had turned the tables completely and were dictating the terms of the conflict. Admiral Kim Sora's voice came over the communication channels with an offer that stunned every alien commander. We are prepared to accept your surrender and discuss terms for a peaceful resolution to this conflict. The Korean Admiral's offer was not motivated by mercy but by practical considerations. The humans had achieved their strategic objectives, and continuing the battle would only result in unnecessary casualties. On both sides, the alien fleet was completely defeated and posed no further threat to humanity. The humans had demonstrated their military superiority and could now negotiate from a position of strength. The battle that was supposed to destroy humanity had instead established them as the dominant military power in the galaxy. The thank you note had been the beginning of a plan that had taken decades to implement and had succeeded beyond all expectations. The aliens were learning that humans were unlike any species they had encountered before. When faced with destruction, humanity had not surrendered or fled. They had prepared for war and emerged victorious against impossible odds. The Galactic Council's warning had been intended as a death sentence, but had instead become the catalyst for humanity's rise to power. The humans had been grateful for the advance notice because it had given them time to prepare for the war they had always known was coming. Admiral Zethmer looked at his tactical displays one final time before giving the order that would end the battle. The proud alien commander who had never lost a war was about to surrender to a species he had planned to destroy. The war that was supposed to destroy humanity ended not with Earth's destruction but with the complete surrender of the Galactic Council. The mighty alien alliance that had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years found themselves sitting across from human negotiators in what had once been their own council chamber. General Yang Haijin sat at the head of the massive conference table, where alien ambassadors had once planned the destruction of primitive species. The Korean general's uniform was simple and practical compared to the elaborate costumes worn by the defeated aliens, but her quiet confidence made it clear who was now in charge. The negotiations took place on the same space station where the Council had voted to destroy humanity just months earlier, but now the roles were completely reversed. The aliens who had once threatened extinction were begging for mercy from the species they had tried to eliminate. The human terms were surprisingly reasonable considering the circumstances. General Yang Haijin did not demand the complete destruction of alien civilization or the enslavement of their populations. Instead, she proposed a new arrangement that would benefit everyone. Humanity will take responsibility for military security throughout this sector of the galaxy, the general announced as she looked at the assembled alien representatives. The Council may continue to govern internal affairs for member species, but all external threats will be handled by human forces. The aliens had no choice but to accept these terms. Their fleets were destroyed, their military might was shattered, and their entire civilization was at the mercy of a species they had completely underestimated. Ambassador Kralenth of the Vorthan Empire signed the surrender documents with shaking hands. The proud alien diplomat who had once threatened to destroy humanity was now grateful that the humans were allowing his species to continue existing. The transformation of galactic society happened remarkably quickly. Once the aliens accepted human leadership, they discovered that their new protectors were far more effective than the old Council system had ever been. Commander Park Dae-ho was promoted to admiral and given command of the first human patrol fleet that would maintain order throughout former Council space. The Korean officer established patrol routes that covered dozens of star systems and could respond to threats faster than the old alien system. The species that had once plotted humanity's destruction now competed for the privilege of serving under human command. The aliens had learned that human military leadership was superior to their own, and they wanted to learn from their former enemies. Captain Lee Tae-won found himself commanding a mixed fleet of human and alien vessels as former enemies became allies. The Korean captain's crew of disguised miners had become the core of a new galactic defense force that included volunteers from dozens of different species. The alien crews that served under human commanders discovered that their new leaders were fair and competent. The humans did not treat their former enemies as slaves or second-class citizens, but as valued partners in maintaining galactic peace. Dr. Choi Minho's research facilities became the premier technological institutes in the galaxy. Species from across the known universe sent their brightest scientists to study human innovations and learn about quantum displacement technology. The quiet Korean scientist who had developed the technology that won the war became the most respected researcher in galactic history. His discoveries revolutionized space travel and communication while opening up new possibilities for exploration and development. The alien species that had once seen humanity as primitive barbarians now recognized them as the most advanced civilization in the galaxy. Human technology was decades ahead of anything the aliens had developed, and human military tactics were completely revolutionary. Engineer Bae-Soo Jin's weapons platforms were converted into peaceful trading stations that served as centers of commerce throughout the galaxy. The Korean engineers' hidden fortress stations became bustling marketplaces where dozens of species could meet and conduct business safely. The weapons systems remained hidden but ready to activate if any threats emerged. The galaxy was more peaceful under human protection than it had ever been under council rule, because potential aggressors knew that human forces could appear anywhere. Instantly, Lieutenant Ru Jaemin's colony on New Seoul became a model for how human settlements could integrate with alien populations. The underground factories that had produced weapons during the war were converted to manufacture civilian goods that improved life for everyone. The Korean officers' garrison became a training center where alien military personnel could learn human tactics and technology. Former enemies worked side by side to develop new strategies for maintaining peace and responding to external threats. Captain Oh Jin-ae continued to patrol the outer regions of the galaxy in her stealth ship, but now she was protecting trade routes and exploring unknown sectors instead of hunting enemy commanders. The Korean captain's invisible vessel had become a symbol of human technological superiority. The stealth technology that had been crucial during the war was now used for scientific exploration and peaceful reconnaissance. Human ships could investigate dangerous phenomena and study hostile environments without risking detection. Dr. Song Woo-seok's communication monitoring systems became the foundation of a galaxy-wide information network that connected all inhabited worlds. The Korean scientist's ability to decode any message or transmission made him invaluable for maintaining diplomatic relations. The communication network that had given humanity strategic advantage during the war now facilitated trade and cultural exchange between species that had never been able to communicate effectively before. The aliens learned that human leadership was fundamentally different from the old council system. The humans did not rule through fear and intimidation, but through competence and fairness. They earned respect by solving problems and protecting the innocent species that had lived in terror of the council's arbitrary decisions. Found that human administrators were predictable and just the humans, established clear laws and enforced them equally regardless of which species was involved. Admiral Kim So-ra became the supreme commander of all galactic military forces and established a new doctrine based on cooperation rather than conquest. The Korean admiral's strategic brilliance had won the war, but her diplomatic skills were even more impressive. Under Kim So-ra's leadership, the galaxy experienced an unprecedented period of peace and prosperity. Trade flourished between species that had been enemies for centuries, while scientific cooperation led to discoveries that benefited everyone. The human military presence was minimal but highly effective. Small patrol fleets could maintain order across vast regions because their advanced technology allowed them to respond to threats instantly. The quantum displacement systems meant that help was always just moments away. The aliens discovered that they no longer needed to maintain massive military forces to defend themselves. Human protection was far more reliable than anything they had been able to provide for themselves. The irony of the situation was not lost on anyone. The Council had sent Earth a warning about the consequences of rapid expansion and humanity had replied with a thank you note that had seemed completely inappropriate at the time, but the humans had been genuinely grateful for the advance warning because it had given them the opportunity to prepare for the war they had always known was inevitable. The 30-day notice had been exactly what they needed to put their plans into action. The Council had been absolutely correct about the consequences of rapid expansion. There had indeed been devastating results that changed the balance of power throughout the galaxy. But the aliens had been wrong about who would suffer those consequences. The species that had threatened humanity with extinction had become the victims of their own arrogance and overconfidence. They had underestimated their enemies so completely that they had walked into a trap that had been decades in the making. The thank you note had been the first indication that humans were unlike any species the aliens had ever encountered. Most civilizations would have responded to a death threat with fear, anger, or desperate attempts at negotiation, but humanity had responded with polite gratitude. The aliens should have realized that any species capable of thanking their enemies for a death sentence was probably planning something very special in return. The humans had been preparing for galactic war while pretending to be harmless colonists and miners. Transformation of galactic civilization was complete within a single year. The species that had ruled through fear and violence for millennia found themselves living in a universe where conflicts were resolved through negotiation and cooperation. The humans had not sought to conquer the galaxy, but they had been forced to take control. When the existing system threatened their survival, the aliens learned that human leadership was superior to their own and willingly accepted the new arrangement. Children of all species grew up learning about the day when Earth received a warning from the Galactic Council and replied with a thank you note. The story became a legend that taught the importance of careful planning, patient preparation, and never underestimating your opponents. The galaxy was safer, more prosperous, and more peaceful under human guidance than it had ever been before. The species that had once planned humanity's destruction now thanked their former enemies for saving them from their own violent